What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. So this was just a huge win for Oklahoma City, obviously, for two big reasons. One, this particular type of team, these upper Western Conference teams like Minnesota and the Lakers and Denver, these are teams that Oklahoma City struggled with early in the season, those big front lines, but they notched a couple of recent wins, obviously beating the Lakers, albeit at the end of a road trip, but they beat the Lakers and then this win against the Nuggets. So they're starting to demonstrate that they can win against some of these bigger lineups. You saw down the stretch of this game them go with Jalen Williams, alongside Chet Holmgren so that they could put Chet in help side situations. So you got to see kind of from a personnel standpoint what it looks like to see a bigger forward. Even if Jalen Williams is not the exact type of player you would want there, he's at least a reasonable facsimile of it. So you got to see some of those benefits, right? But so it's important not only because it demonstrates that they can hang with some of these bigger front lines, but the second piece of it is it's just a legitimizing win. This is the team that has the second best record in the Western Conference, the fifth best record in the league, and a win on the road in Denver, a really hard place to win under any circumstances, but they're also the defending champs. They also have the consensus top player in the league in Nikola Jokic. It just was a legitimizing win in a lot of ways. But I have two major takeaways that I want to get into. First of all, this is a great example of why Oklahoma City needs that upgrade at the forward position to reach where they want to reach in the big picture. The reason why I feel that way is the other four guys in that lineup could not have played better in this particular game. I thought Lou Dort did just an amazing job on Jamal Murray down the stretch. Even the one tough bucket that Jamal hit on him, it could have been an offensive foul, took the contact in the chest, and Jamal just basically shoved him off and got to his spot for that little fadeaway jumper. I thought he did a really, really good job on Jamal Murray. I thought Chet Holmgren was ridiculous in this game. He was, you guys remember that play off of the horn set where Aaron Gordon just cut off of the right elbow and Chet was in a trail position, and Aaron Gordon's one of the freakiest athletes in the game, and Chet chased him down and pinned his dunk attempt on the glass. He was awesome in vertical spacing situations, just sitting in the dunker spot. Both Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had driving plays where they just had basic, like, beat your man off the dribble, engage the rim protector, throw it up in the air, Chet can go dunk it. That's textbook vertical spacing, when it's like, all you have to do is engage this defender and then just throw it in the general vicinity of the rim, and Chet's going to go get it. That is a super valuable form of spacing versus the type of player that won't be able to elevate over the top and go get it, or a player with a smaller window that you can throw the ball to. It's a huge asset there. And then obviously there were a couple possessions where he ended up on Jokic late, especially when they were doing the offense-defense subs. But for the most part, he was in help side and he was doing a good job of shutting down cutters, with exception of a couple of wild Jokic plays, because that's what Jokic does. But Chet was ridiculous. And then J-Dub and SGA. Just incredible shot creation down the stretch. Both of them were picking on Jamal Murray quite a bit and beating him off the dribble to make good things happen. And, I've talked a lot about how in order to make, because Denver is a defense that has been defending above their pay grade, so to speak, for the most part through the playoffs last year and into this regular season. And the main reason why is, like, they defend well, but they have weak defensive personnel on the floor in multiple spots. The Nuggets were also doing offense-defense subs down the stretch with Michael Porter Jr. That's how Peyton Watson ended up in the game, right? You had the Jamal Murray getting attacked. Nikola Jokic has some limitations defensively as well. But when they're all in the right spots and their scheme is set up and everyone's doing their job and they're playing against offenses that have like one or two primary types of actions that they go against, they can actually defend at a pretty high level. What Oklahoma City has that makes it uniquely capable of punishing Denver's weaker defensive personnel is the lack of a weak perimeter option to hide Jamal Murray on. I'll give you guys an example. So what you saw down the stretch of that game with the ghost screens to try to get Jamal Murray on the ball is a very, very similar thing to what the Lakers were doing in game one of the Western Conference Finals last year. If you remember, LeBron James was bringing Austin Reeves into the screening action and basically having him set ghost screens and pop to the three-point line. What a lot of teams will do in that situation is have their weaker defender, in this case Jamal Murray, hedge and then recover, meaning they basically step out to stop LeBron or whoever it is, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Williams, from driving, and then recover back to their man and hopefully the primary on-ball defender can get back after that hedge, right? That's the way that system works. That's how you protect your weaker defensive player. But what killed the Nuggets for a brief stretch in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals was Austin Reeves was really capable of setting his feet quickly on those slips and knocking down a three-point shot. So while Jamal was hedging, LeBron was hitting Austin wide open on the three-point line and hitting the shot, right? So the Nuggets adjusted, Mike Malone adjusted by just sliding Jamal Murray over to Dennis Schroeder, a player who is a very good guard, who has a lot of things that he can do with the ball in his hands. But what Dennis Schroeder is not is a movement shooter. And so when Dennis Schroeder would set the screen for LeBron and pop to the three-point line, Jamal Murray didn't have to worry about Dennis like doing the Klay Thompson quick, slide step three-point shot off the move. That's just not a shot that's in Dennis Schroeder's game, right? And his release is kind of slower and dragged out. And so the Nuggets were just never in a situation where LeBron could consistently pick on Jamal Murray in those ghost screen actions. Why can Oklahoma City do it? Because if it's Isaiah Joe, if it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if it's Jalen Williams, there's none of those guys that they could get away with just tucking Jamal Murray away on and hiding. And so Jamal Murray frequently ended up on the basketball against Shai and against Jalen Williams, and those guys were able to make him pay. Again, in order to be able to truly cause problems for Denver's defense, you have to truly be able to spread them out and put yourself in a situation where you can attack their weak points when they're not in help side, when they're on ball rather than in help side. And it's just difficult to do. There's not a lot of teams that have that level of personnel. Even if you go to the top of the league, Minnesota doesn't really have that personnel. Like they can probably get away with hiding a Jamal Murray on someone like a Jaden McDaniels, right? Because Jaden McDaniels is a good offensive player, but not a guy who's going to hit a bunch of movement threes, right? You're going to see teams like the Lakers. They're going to be able to hide a Jamal Murray on a Taurean Prince, right? Like they're going to be able to find guys in the top of the conference that they can hide Jamal Murray on. Oklahoma City is just kind of uniquely equipped in that perimeter talent to really put pressure on some of the weaker elements of Denver's defense. Now, but that's the interesting part is like Oklahoma City also doesn't have the front line. Like as much as this was an entertaining game for Oklahoma City, if Oklahoma City played a 7-game series against Denver tomorrow, Denver would be heavily favored in large part because I'm not sure that they have the front line weapons to hold up against Denver's attack or the Lakers attack or Minnesota's attack on that front line, right? So like, again, this is how matchups work. And when you go into these series, there are things that you have in your corner that are your advantage. And then you have things that they have in their corner that are their advantage. And it's just, this is one of the things that uniquely makes Oklahoma City difficult to deal with is they just have a shit ton of perimeter talent and they don't have guys that you can really afford to hide players on, and they can cause a lot of problems in that sense, right? But if we look at that four-man grouping that I just mentioned, Dort on the ball on Jamal Murray, Chet Holmgren helping, causing problems in help side defense, his vertical spacing, all the things that Chet Holmgren does, right? J-Will and J-Dub and SGA just being incredible with their shot creation from the perimeter down the stretch. They were just unbelievable, right? I talked about the driving lobs to Chet Holmgren. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hit multiple pull-up jump shots down the stretch of that game. J-Dub, I keep freaking mixing up their names. That's my bad. But J-Dub ends up beating Jamal Murray and has that ridiculous up and under finish on the right side of the basket down the stretch of the game, right? Like all of that's great, except for you had to run offense-defense subs down the stretch of the game, right? You had to run offense-defense subs because Isaiah Joe, as much as he provides you an extra perimeter option offensively, he put them in a predicament where Chet had to be on Nikola Jokic, which is a configuration they've really struggled with over the course of their matchups with Denver this season, although Chet did get a big stop on Jokic late, which we'll talk about in a minute. But then they went to Jalen Williams, right? J-Will, and that put them in a situation where they could line up defensively the way they wanted to, but have some issues on the offensive end of the floor where Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic can be more active around the paint, right? So it's like a give and a take. That's where it would be ideal if you could have a forward in that 4 spot that gave you the defensive rebounding capabilities of a bigger bodied forward while also having the offensive proficiency to maintain that dynamic that I was just talking about with the Thunder as it pertains to their overall offensive talent. It's just what I look at as like the ultimate configuration of the team is like this lineup, Shai, Jalen, and Dort alongside Chet with a big athletic forward who's a plus offensive player slotted between those guys that can allow them to kind of have the best of both of those worlds. That was one of my major takeaways from that particular game. The second piece of it, before I move on to the second take, I had mentioned earlier about like a month ago, I had mentioned like, oh, you know what would be interesting? What about a Lou Dort for Rui Hachimura trade with the Lakers was the one that I had purported as like kind of pitched as a potential idea, right? And my idea there is like, you know, the Thunder have lots of other perimeter defensive talent that can kind of take on that role, and that kind of gives them their big forward that can help them in a lot of ways, right? Especially a guy like Rui who proved to be a pretty impactful playoff player last year, right? Well, I think I've kind of gone to the other side of that specific opinion just from the standpoint of how vitally important I think Lou Dort is. And I think, you know, when I saw that two-man game down the stretch and I saw Lou Dort's ability to navigate those ball screens, there were late clock possessions where the Nuggets had to throw some tough shots up, in large part because Dort just blew up initial actions in the possession. And it's one of those things where I'm not saying that Rui's not that level of player, that he can't help or that he wouldn't be a good forward for that spot. I'm more just saying I think now that Lou Dort is a truly non-expendable piece of this lineup because of the fact that he's not just a good perimeter defender, he's one of the very best in the league. He's one of the hardest dudes in the league to screen. He's incredibly good at staying in front of great athletes and forcing them to shoot over the top. Yeah, you're occasionally going to see plays like Jamal Murray hitting that step back over the top of him because he doesn't quite have the length of some of his peers, but he's just one of the very best at what he does. And I don't think that they can replace that on roster. So I think if they do go about trying to upgrade that forward position, it needs to be at the expense of a player outside of those core four guys. Got to keep Shai, got to keep Jalen Williams, got to keep Lou Dort, got to keep Chet Holmgren. It's got to be with Giddey and, you know, some combination of guys off the bench that you end up making that type of a deal. Secondly, even in a loss, that game solidified for me Denver as the championship favorite. Because I thought Oklahoma City threw a magnificent punch in this game. They had a great defensive game plan, and they basically stole the game because they scored on 9 of their last 10 possessions. There was an Isaiah Joe turnover where he tried to throw a hook pass that got intercepted. But outside of that, on 9 of their last 10 possessions, they scored every single time. That is why the Thunder were able to steal this particular game, right? And they made every pull-up jump shot they took down the stretch. Shai hit a tough step back over Christian Brown on the left wing. Shai hit a tough left shoulder fade over the top of Peyton Watson. Jalen Williams hit a tough one-legged fadeaway over the top, right? There were some tough shots in that stretch. You got to just tip your cap to the Thunder and give them credit for winning that particular game. But I thought the Nuggets offense looked fantastic down the stretch of that particular game, despite not just a hellacious effort from Oklahoma City, but a good defensive configuration, and one that we've seen a lot of teams utilize against the Nuggets, that being putting a forward on Jokic that presses up while you have your lankier center kind of helping on the back line, right? And they were just still able to get wide open looks consistently. Nikola Jokic on the left wing, a little head fake to get Jalen Williams to kind of leave his feet over to his left, which allowed Jokic to rip to the left. And then he just threw this sweet little lefty lob pass to Aaron Gordon that somehow just barely got over Chet's fingertips for a dunk, right? Aaron Gordon dribbling on the right wing, and J-Dub is ball pressuring the hell out of him, and Aaron Gordon just hits him with the crossover, gets downhill, swing pass to Michael Porter Jr., rips baseline, boom, one-handed hammer along the baseline. It's that's just so easy. It's just easy basketball, right? Jokic post up on the right block, Lou Dort doubles, skip pass to Michael Porter Jr. in the corner. He knocks down a huge 3 late in the game. Even in the bad possessions that they had during the stretch, it felt like possessions that were more a product of the situation that they were in. Christian Brown made 2 pull-up jumpers late in this game, a pull-up 3 and a pull-up 2. And you might sit there as a Thunder fan and be like, man, I can't believe he made those shots. But that's KCP usually. If Denver has KCP, that's him on the floor. Those are good shots. KCP, if you leave him open from 3 or from that 18 to 20 foot mark, he's going to make it. So that's a high percentage look in a playoff series for Denver, right? Jamal Murray, off of a one pass away double team from Lou Dort, had a wide open three on the left wing in the final minute that he missed. That's a great look out of a double team, right? There was a play where Jalen Williams was off the floor because of the offense-defense subs, and Chet had to press up against Nikola Jokic, and Jokic spun off of him, and Michael Porter Jr. was wide open on the right wing, and Jokic just missed the read. Shai dug down, Jokic missed the read, and bricked a floater high off of the glass. And it's like, how often does Jokic miss a read? Like, that just doesn't happen very often, right? Like, really the only truly bad possession in that stretch was the one where Michael Porter Jr. got stripped by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander about 30 feet from the rim on the right side. The point is like, no matter what I've seen this season, I've seen a lot of really impressive stuff from a lot of impressive teams. But when it comes down to the chess match of playoff basketball, I just trust Denver's offense to consistently generate quality shots at a much higher rate than anybody else in the league. And as a result of that, I think it makes it extremely difficult to beat them 4 times in 2 weeks. And so even as frustrating as it's been for Denver, and like, look, they've been really mediocre. Started 8-1, they're 9-9 since. 15th in offense, 14th in defense. They're not playing very well. But like, I just still am not even the slightest bit worried about having them as my number one contender at this point, or my number one championship favorite, because their offense is just the safest bet in basketball right now. They're going to get great looks, and they're probably going to make them. Like, if Oklahoma City doesn't make a basket or score points on 9 of their last 10 possessions, and it's more like 6 of their last 10, Denver wins that game easily. And again, you tip the cap to OKC in this particular game, but I just thought it was such a great indicator of what makes Denver so transcendently great.